Hey guys, good morning. This is Dan. Welcome to Engelgeist. For those of you that are new, welcome. For those of you that are returning, welcome back. And for those of you that support me over on Patreon, thank you so very much. This is the Sunday forecast, which is for the week of, we're talking about January 31st through 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th through February 6th. So this is a forecast for the greater collective for those dates. It's not necessarily only set for those dates. If you're watching it on a date that's other than those dates, that's fine. There might still be a message in here for you. But each card will represent about a day or two of the week, maybe 3 for some of you. Some of you might experience only one of these cards. Some of you might experience all of these cards and then some. It's all sort of, take it as it comes. It's a very flexible reading, and it's done in a broad spectrum for many different people. So I talk in broad terms in an effort to reach as many people as possible. So because of that, you're going to have to figure out where this reading best fits in your life, if it fits at all. If it doesn't fit for any reason, that doesn't mean anything's wrong or broken. It just might mean that you are working on something different at this time. So don't worry. If things do make sense, or you're like, oh wow, that fits in this area of my life, I want you to be aware that any decisions you make in your life, having watched any of my readings, after having watched any of my readings, are solely your responsibility. Always use your own highest intelligence and intuition while making those decisions, and never take anything that I say over that of a professional in the field, like a doctor, a lawyer, or a therapist. Always listen to their advice first and foremost, and your own sort of intelligence and intuition, okay? Use these readings to sort of help support you in whatever decision making you might need to do, to validate what you may already know, that sort of a thing. They're not here to necessarily make the decision for you. So just keep that in mind. So let's see what's going on. What do the cards want us to know? Another aside too, I will let you know, as I'm filming this a day earlier than the 31st, it's now the morning of January 30th when I'm filming this. Mercury has gone retrograde, so do expect things to, for some of you, some of us get affected more deeply than others by Mercury retrograde. It really depends, and it can also depend on what sign it's retrograding in and all of that. So, but just be aware, we're open for more miscommunications, electronic glitches, things not working the way that they should, or maybe not feeling as smooth as they could be. So be prepared for that for the next, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks. It is what you make of it, though, with Mercury retrograde. If you ease into it and allow it to happen, it doesn't necessarily have to be debilitating. So keeping that in mind. And we still have also the effects of the full moon in Leo going on. So be aware of that too. That will go on probably for the next, I would say, maybe the next day, maybe another day or two, and then that should be, hopefully phasing out. So let's see what's going on. What do the cards want us to know? And also tomorrow, I think we're switching over to a new deck because January's gone. Like, oh my God, crazy. All right, so for the first card for this week, oh, yay. It's our good friend, the Death card. Major Arcana. Death is not necessarily a bad thing. Yes, I know, like, people want to freak out and be like, oh my God, it's death. Death to me is about inevitable endings. It's about sometimes having things maybe taken away from us that we weren't necessarily expecting, or maybe we don't feel as though we're ready to have them taken away. But ultimately, it is a form of transformation. It is usually a form where, in the sort of release of death, something new can be born. So I always look at death from a more positive perspective, in the sense that there is this opportunity for something new to come about. There is a transformation that needs to take place. And sometimes we may be unwilling to do it for ourselves. So the environment, the universe, our God, circumstances need to do it for us. And that's kind of how I see death. When we fight against death or we resist it, that's when we kind of run into more of a struggle, or that resistance that we can put up instead of just flowing with it and allowing the situation to be as it is. That resistance that we put up kind of can create more havoc or more drama for us, make it more painful. Death rarely indicates an actual passing of someone, even though it is called the death card. So I don't want anybody freaking out thinking anybody around them is going to die. That's not necessarily the case. It's more about a transformation of what exists in the now that's sort of hopefully no longer working for us, and how that is going to transform into something new. Death is ruled by the sign of Scorpio. So it can be, rather emotional, tumultuous, that sort of an experience. Allow it to just sort of happen, guys. That's the best thing to do with any of the major arcana cards that represent sort of struggles or strifes, like i.e. the Tower, Death. Those are the cards that we want to sort of lean into, relax around, be carried by in a way, right? Because death is something that, and I mean death like in not the physical sense where somebody dies from their body. What I mean is like everything evolves and changes, and everything comes to an end at some point. Be it, a job, a relationship, a life, a plant, it always is always kind of evolving and changing. So it's just a process of life that affects everything basically in this world. So don't, try not to resist it or be too hard on it. Of course, with this Mercury retrograde, it could feel a little bit more intense, but be aware of that going on. And let's see what the clarifiers are, because the clarifiers might tell us a little bit more. Okay, so clarifying this death card. We have the Four of Pentacles. Oh, good. Maybe we're going to let go of some of our fears around money. Maybe we might, with death there, it could mean more fears around money for some of you, quite frankly. The Four of Pentacles can indicate like holding on to things too tightly, being in a little bit of fear, being in a little bit of resistance. This early part of this week, it could be with the retrograde if things are acting a little bit weird, communication is off, people aren't doing what we want them to do in the way that we want them to do it. It's that sort of a thing. We might feel a little bit more of a need to want to hold tight to whatever it is we think we want or the outcome. But that, to me, with that death card there, it feels a little futile, right? In the sense that we sort of maybe need to relax and not fight against it. Let's see what else we've got. We've got the Seven of Swords. Jesus. The early part of this week might be challenging, guys. The Seven of Swords is the liar, cheater, stealer card. So it indicates maybe not necessarily having all of the information, feeling wronged in some way, shape, or form, feeling as though, and that could be the shifting of the death card, right? So if something in your area or your life is fading away or falling apart, and you're like, wait, I don't want this to happen, you're holding on to it tightly through that Four of Pentacles energy. The Seven of Swords would indicate like this could be unexpected for some of you. This could be unwelcome for some of you. This could come out of the blue for some of you, like in the sense of you didn't see it coming kind of thing. And so the truth is that it needs to happen. That's ultimately the power of death. And I kind of feel like he won't be denied, if that makes sense. Like death is something we cannot outrun, right? So we can fight it, we can hold tight and squat down like the Four of Pentacles and sort of force ourselves to, try and avoid it, but there's no fighting it. And then the last card is the Page of Swords. I don't mind this as the final outcome. It's a new way of thinking, ideally, is how I would perceive this. I feel like the pages always have an optimism and enthusiasm, swords being that of the mind or the intellect, our thoughts. We want to sort of maybe hopefully through this transition or through this experience, however we might be experiencing it, if we're not resisting too much, hopefully that Page of Swords is our saving grace, in the sense that we are able to open our mind up and understand that maybe the shifts that are taking place or the changes that are taking place for us are exactly what we need, or they're going to lead us to something that serves us better or helps us to understand. It's kind of like that phrase, when they talk about hindsight is 2020, I kind of get the feeling with that Page of Swords, as he looks back over his shoulder, there will be a moment where we'll understand, oh, I had to go through that. I had to sort of learn that. I had to maybe open up my mind or my perception or how I see things to sort of remove myself and find a new optimism or a new opportunity of how to interact in my world, in my life, within the situations that I'm dealing with, right? Don't be surprised. Death, too, I will say this, it could be something rather significant that could be dissolving. Let's just say that. I don't really like using the word death because it's such a graphic word, but whatever is sort of falling away or changing, transforming into something new or leaving altogether, allow it to leave is sort of my feeling. Don't resist it, don't fight it. The truths around it, I wouldn't get too caught up in those. There could be some hard what's the word, not hard one, but like sort of like some uncomfortable truths that may come out from all of this, but ultimately those truths should allow you to sort of uh, let go easier is sort of the feeling, because the liar, cheater, stealer, the seven of wands or seven of swords usually indicates somebody else sort of betraying us or not telling us everything or us not having all of the information. I don't feel like that is us as the seeker, right? Those of us that are watching this, I don't feel like we're stealing from anybody or we're not telling the truth to anybody. I feel like our truth actually resides in that page of swords, right? Where we need to open up our minds, get a new perspective, get a fresh perspective, let the clouds clear that we see around that page, and sort of start to see things from a different light. It's going to enable death to come in and do its work and sort of change those things. Now let's go to the midweek card. Oh, Jesus. The Three of Swords. This might be a rough week, guys. I'm just going to be honest. The Three of Swords often indicates heartache, heartbreak. Some of you guys could be going through a bit of a dissolution of a relationship, possibly. I'm not sure. I mean, that heart definitely makes me think about love, but the power of the Three of Swords to me, though, is when you remove those three swords that we have here in the heart, we're still left with this big, beautiful beating heart, right? I want you guys to understand that not all is lost this week. If some of you are struggling, that this is just a process, that this is just a transition. Death is always just a transition. The Three of Swords is the pain of that transition, right? Or the pain of that experience. Sitting with that, it can oftentimes also be sort of the recollections of that pain or the mind revisiting that pain over and over again, trying to make sense of it, trying to understand it, trying to sort of I don't know, like, if we find ourselves mulling over something that makes us like feel bad or not good, if like, I'm just going to use the Mercury retrograde as an example. If we find ourselves, say we're fighting with somebody or communication is off with somebody, a situation at work, whatever it may be for each and every one of you, if we are dwelling in the midweek too much on why things aren't working, it's causing us our own pain, right? It's almost like we're taking those thoughts, which would be represented by those swords, and driving it through our own heart. If we can't shift our perspective, which I think is that Page of Swords, I feel like he's our saving grace. If we can't open up our mind and ideally look from another perspective, a fresher perspective, and allow this stuff to let go, we could be finding ourselves in the midweek really hurt by it. But I kind of get the feeling that the hurt is really on our shoulders, in the sense that it really is up to us how we choose to hold it, perceive it, and focus on it. If we're making that our main focus, if we're not sort of like becoming into sort of acceptance of what's going on versus resistance, it's going to be all the more painful. So let's look at the clarifiers. So we have the Page of Cups. I don't mind him. I like seeing this page energy, both here and here, only because to me pages are optimistic. The Page of Cups would be the element of water, and the emotions, to me, this is about thinking more magically, finding hope within a situation, right? If in the midweek we're feeling a little bit downtrodden, we might be suffering the pain of whatever that loss is, and for each one of you, that loss in the death card at the early part of the week could be a multitude of things, right? Something falling apart that we didn't necessarily otherwise want to or expect to, that kind of a thing. The Page of Cups to me feels like he's bringing in a little bit of magic, a little bit of hope, a little bit of ideally good feelings. He can represent somebody of the water sign variety, right? Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, but I feel like this is hopefully us finding a renewed optimism, a hope, thinking outside of the box to kind of alleviate some of the pain that we see in that Three of Swords. We don't want to get down on ourselves, because I feel like this is already a challenging week. If we add to the challenge that we might already be carrying, we're not doing ourselves any good graces. We're just sort of like pinning ourselves even further down. So let's see, we have the Six of Wands. This is actually a really positive card. This is about celebration. This is about homecoming. This is about things coming back to roost. There could be something, let me see here. For some of you, there could be the sort of the message that we get in that Seven of Swords, right? That liar, cheater, stealer. By midweek, we might actually understand or come to some sort of terms with whatever it is that we find out. If there is sort of maybe lies being told, or, and lies can also be things of omission. It doesn't have to be outright, lies, maybe something that, somebody's keeping a secret from us that they don't want us to know. The Six of Wands to me indicates that possibly us understanding that may help us. I'm not going to say that we won't be wounded, right? That's the Three of Swords to me. But I like the Page of Cups. I like the Six of Wands. Ultimately, to me, these two cards are telling me that this sadness, pain, upset that we might be going through, the struggle that we might be feeling in the midweek is actually leading us to some sense of a freedom or liberation that we maybe don't fully understand. Like, I feel like these cards are working around in the background. So while we're all caught up in our feels, there's stuff happening for us that is adjusting or changing that is going to bring us about hopefully some peace, some hope, some reasons to celebrate, maybe coming down the line. We may not feel it just right now in this week. Now, the last card for the midweek is the Four of Swords. Four of Swords would indicate resting, right? Going inward, relaxing the mind, allowing yourself to have your mind to stabilize, right? To bring about sort of reflection, inner discussion, or having that conversation within oneself without the outside opinions of others. Allowing maybe people and sort of their dramas or whatever they might be bringing to you, like freeing yourself from those things and taking some much needed you time, or time to sort of just take care of yourself, rest, relax, go inward. That is also going to help with whatever we might be dealing with or struggling with or feeling as though we might potentially be losing at this time. The Four of Swords will help to I think ideally set us up for the magic that we see in that Page of Wands and in the celebration that we see in that the Page of Cups and the celebration that we see in that Six of Wands, right? So in the midweek, really take some time if you can to just steady yourself, relax, disconnect, turn off your phone, don't get caught up. Don't let the drama seep in. You've already got sort of your own drama happening in that Three of Swords, right? You've got enough sort of like pain. You don't want to add to it or allow others to add to it, okay? Place yourself first, too. That would also be an indication of the Six of Wands and the Page of Cups with that Four of Swords. I would say this is a good time to sort of put yourself at the forefront and care for yourself. Now, the last card, I love this. So it looks like we're turning a corner after this run of cards in putting ourselves first and in sort of dwelling in this possibility and possible celebration. We have the Nine of Pentacles. Now, she is sort of Miss Independent as far as I'm concerned. She is earth energy. She's grounded. It's all about her. She is the focus. She has everything she needs. She doesn't need anyone else. She doesn't need anything else. Whatever maybe we've lost in the beginning part of the week or has transformed or changed, even if we didn't want it at the beginning of the week, by week's end, this Nine of Pentacles indicates to me that we hopefully will feel a little bit more self-assured about whatever changes that are taking place. They will be for our highest good. And even if they don't necessarily obviously feel like they're for our highest good, we're going to make the best of it. That's kind of how I see that Nine of Pentacles. She has need for nothing. She has everything that she needs, and she's her own provider, right? So we don't have to rely on anyone else. We don't have to ask. I'm not saying it's you shouldn't ask for anyone's help. If you need help or you need assistance or support, feel free to do so. But I kind of feel like this card feels empowered to me. We feel like we've made it to the other side of whatever struggle we maybe have been having at the beginning of the week and feeling the ramifications of towards the middle of the week. To me, I like that she is our end of the week card. It kind of makes up for it. So anybody that's feeling super wonky, imagine yourself ideally getting more steadied by the end of the week in the last few days of this week. Let's look at her clarifiers. We have the Four of Cups. Four of Cups usually can indicate boredom and things like that, but I don't feel like that's the case here. I feel like today is he gets to choose his emotion. We get to choose how we feel, right? We also have that Four of Pentacles up in the front. We have two pages. We have three fours. We have 4, 4, and 4. So Four to me is always an energy about stability, right? Finding and achieving that stability. Like with the Four of Pentacles, that sometimes we're holding on too tightly in an effort to keep things stable. With the Four of Swords, it's about kind of going inward and trying to stabilize our mind. With the Four of Cups, to me, it's about kind of trying to get all of our emotions in order and back on grounded and centered, right? That's kind of how I view it. With that Nine of Pentacles there, her being a Pentacles energy, it's earth energy, should be very grounded. You guys should ideally be feeling in, like, hopefully in some semblance of control, feeling at some sort of peace. I'm not going to say everything's going to be perfect because we do have that Four of Cups. It can indicate, things not quite right yet, but we're working towards getting them there. I always love that he's sitting underneath that tree, sort of in reflection. To me, that looks like he's grounding, he's connecting to his environment, and he's trying to make the best of whatever that it is that he's got going on. So keeping that in mind, we have the Queen of Cups. I love this because she's cups upon cups. With that Four of Cups, I feel like this is about getting our feelings right after the rough week we maybe had in the early part and the mid part of the week. Whatever it is that we've gone through, I feel like we bounce back in the end of the week and really start to look and inventory our emotions, to love ourselves, to nurture ourselves, to sort of bring ourselves back to whole. And I'm talking about like emotionally, right? So that we feel okay. It's not like everything will be perfect, right? But we will feel like we understand how we feel, why we feel, what we feel. And it's not like, I don't feel like we're getting rocked by whatever the situation may be that we deal with in the beginning part of this week. If we are dealing with something that feels, like a loss or uncomfortable to us. And the last card, okay, we didn't want to see these guys today, but we'll take it. It's the Five of Wands. To me, I kind of get a feeling that whatever it is, some of you might be dealing with, right? It doesn't necessarily go away. The Five of Wands, I always call this the whole lot of fuckery card, right? There's a lot of people like sparring in this card. To me, this could be the opinions of others. This could be, office politics. This could be infighting amongst friends, amongst siblings, amongst family members. There could be a lot going on around you, but I feel like with that Nine of Pentacles, the Queen of Cups, and the Four of Cups, as long as we keep our emotions clean and clear and sort of stay out of the fray, we will be fine. I'm not going to say that things are going to be easy around you. That Five of Wands indicates that it's probably not. It could be challenging, but at best, usually the Five of Wands, to me, I perceive it as more of an annoyance than anything else. And the week that you guys might have in the early part of the week, and if you're not having a bad week or nothing goes missing or lost or changes in any way, shape, or form, then this reading may not be for you. So that's completely fine. If everything's running along smoothly, take it, run with it, and follow that as your lead. Don't indicate or be on any sort of fear or worry that, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's not about that. For those of you that this reading does make sense for, the Five of Wands indicates that not everybody's going to be on their best behavior around you, although you will be able to be. That is my feeling with that Nine of Pentacles and the Queen of Cups and even the Four of Cups. There could be, that Four of Cups could be a little bit about being disturbed by what's going on in that Five of Wands, but we get to choose to not allow that disturbance to really rock our world. We've already maybe had our world rocked in the early part of the week around something else. It could be something to do with this the Five of Wands, or it could be that this Five of Wands could be a sort of a fallout situation from whatever the loss was in the early part, right? Like, I don't know, like, I'm just going to use this as an example. Say somebody loses a job or gets demoted at work, i.e. you, right? It's the drama. The Five of Wands would indicate the drama of, like, the people gossiping in the background, or they're putting in their 2 cents about what they thought your boss should have done for you, or blah, blah, blah. It's that kind of a thing. It's annoying, but we don't want our emotions to get involved. We don't want to get sucked back down into it. We want to stay strong, stable, and independent, like the Nine of Pentacles. All right, let's go to the grounding stone. This is a stone that we want to ground in, or a principle we want to ground in throughout the week to help us keep centered and work towards something that's in our highest good. This is generosity on Tiger's Eye, which is an extremely grounded stone. When I think of generosity, I feel like this is definitely about being generous to ourselves. There are some losses, there are some sadnesses, there are some things that are going on for some of you. It could be something as simple as struggling just with what's going on in day-to-day life. But as you are sort of good to yourself and you take care of yourself. And I think you need to make yourself the focus. We see that in the Four of Swords. We see that in the Nine of Pentacles. I like that in the Queen of Cups. I feel like the Page of Cups, even the Six of Wands in the middle of the week, those would all be sort of like positive cards that we want to take and focus upon ourselves. So be generous to yourself, be kind to yourself, give yourself a wide berth if you are struggling with something that's harsh or that feels like it's a loss of some kind. If you can't do that for yourself, nobody else will, is kind of the feeling that I'm getting. So being generous in that way to yourself also helps us to be able to be available in our best version of ourselves for others. Not that that's necessarily the key this week. The key is being good to ourselves, giving to ourselves. We see that in the Nine of Pentacles at the end of the week. We've sort of arrived there by the time we reach that Nine of Pentacles. And I think some of that is like by moving through the emotions and the thoughts around the frustrations we may have around situations that are outside of our control, that aren't necessarily working in the way that we want them to or we think that they should. But shoulding is never a good idea, right? When we're in shoulds, it's usually somebody else's information. It's usually not necessarily always going to work out that way. When you're saying they should be doing this, no, that's what you want for them or what you think is best for them, but that's not what they may want for themselves. It's somebody else's information. It's your information over theirs. And if I should be doing something, if you're making I should statements about yourself, then you're thinking about what you think you need to be doing because of somebody else's perception of who you are. Does that make sense? So keep that in mind as you move forward through this week. Really be good to yourself. That's sort of the thing that I think is going to be key to get you through, is certainly as we adjust into this Mercury retrograde too. It's going to be rife with like sort of situations that may want to get under our skin or annoy the shit out of us, and we don't want that to happen, right? We don't want, because we've got like 2 to 3 weeks of the retrograde, and it's always they can be quite like annoying, let's say. So let's not allow that to happen by being kind and generous and good to ourselves. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense, you guys. That is your forecast for the day. Please hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment if you have any questions. You can always go over and follow the Facebook business page, and vice versa. If you're watching on Facebook, go over and like the YouTube channel and subscribe. And I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll see how this energy builds each day throughout the week into February. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Bye-bye.